we're gonna look at this because they've been trying to infiltrate anime regardless, but yeah, the UN has officially infiltrated anime. Japan just exposed the UN. Did they really? Because from what I can see, that new anime, is it really a new anime? Regardless, it's very interesting. We're gonna look at this. Also, please consider liking and subscribing. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The UN is in there. The UN is in this bitch.
Back in 2024, the UN made a report that claimed that manga and anime promotes gender stereotypes and violence against women and children. Pretty ironic.
You don't want to know what's funny though? They looked at some statistics. Guess how many people? Guess people that are mangaka? How high is the percentage of female mangaka out of all mangaka? Guess. Guess. You'll never guess it, but guess.
Ironic considering that the anime and manga medium actually has less gender stereotypes than Western media does, but okay, UN. It's also ironic for another reason, which is just disgusting, because the UN peacekeepers have been accused of doing things that I would never be able to even say on YouTube. This is to say that the UN is a very corrupt and morally bankrupt organization. But the UN is in the news once again in anime circles over the last 24 hours or so, because now they decided to hold this interview with the mangaka of Witch Hat Atelier, to which Kodansha has also been promoting this interview. The United Nations interviewer really tries to push this narrative that female mangaka
67, 76. So, I mean, the right numbers. Yes. From the numbers I've seen, around 70 to 76% of all mangaka are female. That means most, like, obviously it makes sense, right? Like, I'm not surprised, kind of. But, like, a lot of mangaka are female. So they're trying to push the idea that it is a traditionally male-dominated field, which is a straight-up lie.
don't really exist and are only now starting to become somewhat of a thing. It's very clear that, as usual, the UN is operating in bad faith and once again trying to push specific untrue narratives onto the anime medium. It's unfortunate that the manga of Witch Hat Shirahama has even played into their game by giving them this interview. However, many people across the world are calling out the UN and Kodansha for this, which resulted in Kodansha going.
So yeah. So yeah. See, it's like interesting, right? So when it comes to manga and anime in general, for manga, a large portion of those of the artists, right, are women. A large portion, however, of the consumers are men. That's very interesting, but they're trying to push the idea that manga is, like, being a mangaka is male dominated, but it is actually female dominated. So they are straight up lying to you. They're lying to you. And it's very interesting that, like, the sustainable goals from the UN, right, are being inserted into manga. The problem is I don't like the UN because the UN was not all too long ago crying about how terrible anime is for women and girls, and now all of a sudden they want to promote it. I don't believe them. This is bait. Uh this is a Trojan horse for DEI.
Going on a mass blocking spree where they seem to have blocked almost everyone who pointed out the hypocrisy going on here.
Yep, even Chibi. They blocked Chibi reviews, which is very telling. That is very telling of them. That tells me all I need to know.
But let's take a look at what some people from Japan specifically are saying about this. In response to anime updates talking about this interview news, this account says, there's a misunderstanding.
I love this feature, right? So this is the new feature that Twitter added, right? Oh, Duck. Oh, okay, Duck. A quick trivia question, sure. How many SDGs are there? I have no idea how many there are, but there are a few. It's like a list with neat little pics and stuff. So, right, this is the new feature, right? This one, right? Twitter didn't have this, right? But now it automatically translates Japanese posts into English. It translates all posts that are not in your language, and even those that are in your, like, not in your language, it will translate all of them into your language. It is so useful because it makes people interact with each other that have never been able to um that have never been able to interact with each other, right? They have never been able to interact with each other. But now Japan can interact with the West, and it makes it very interesting. Bro, you should know this. I'm unsure, but 16 or 17. I don't think it's 14. That much. I think 16 or 17. I'm unsure though.
Standing here. Women manga artists have been quite numerous since the 1970s. There are plenty of creators who became legends in boys manga and in girls manga. Male creators have drastically decreased. Even in adult manga, women creators hold a certain proportion. It's not that they've only started increasing now, they've been around in droves for a long time, leaving behind tremendous achievements. Now, once again, we have some irony here with the UN, because with the UN trying to push this specific narrative, this untrue narrative, they're the ones actually diminishing the hard work of female mangakas throughout history. Another Japanese account here saying they're piggybacking on the Japan moe art bashing to spread.
Exactly. So here, important news that the guy Chibi has been blocked by them, which is very telling, right? Because he's one of the he's a decently sized anime YouTuber, right? And also anti-censorship advocate and all that stuff, right? It's very interesting. So I'm curious. I'm curious.
Propaganda using that manga by the author who was jumping on the bandwagon. Kodansha's US subsidiary's ideology, it's a you-know-what situation. Another Japanese user took the interview, which was published in English, and machine translated it to Japanese to read it, and they go on to say, it's pretty awful. Or rather, why is it that people in overseas, those circles, can't praise female creators unless they're lying about the manga industry being some male-dominated society? They'd get a response from an English user that says it's because the UN is not praising it with good intentions. They want to influence the industry. They make a fake problem with their globalist beliefs being the solution. They're using the work as a way to try and push their ideology onto Japan. The Japanese OP responds and says all they gotta do is focus on their day jobs. Huh. Those folks. And another English response to the OP saying the UN is always talking about how anime is a problem.
Yeah, and suddenly they're fine with this one. Agreed. It's very interesting. They're just lying, right? They're just trying to push the stuff that they always do, right? It's like the same energy as when the World Economic Forum was involved. It's like very, very interesting if those were trying to push more anime. I'm like, huh? Same energy. Do not trust the UN. It is a propaganda machine. United Nations, my ass. We're not united.
But suddenly they're fine with this one? Makes you think there's something going on. Spanish Twitter is also getting involved with calling this stuff out. For example, this tweet that reads, Rumiko's already been in the industry for like 50 years, and these guys are telling you that women in manga are only just now getting prominence? LMAO. However, some people are defending the United Nations interview. For example, this YouTuber
makes videos mostly on manga, Patreon, business inquiries, Gmail, right? They them lesbian. I thought gender was a concept. You can't be a lesbian if you're not a female. But yeah, the they them lesbians. The they thems. I'm not surprised again. I'm very much not surprised. I am not. They them. They them, because I'm literally two people at this point. No, you're not. Jesus. And it's interesting naming Jesus. Well, anyways.
Lines in Motion, who had written on Twitter, great interview, and insights by Shirahama. Absolutely blockfest in the replies and quote retweets, though. So I guess Lines in Motion doesn't like people pointing out the hypocrisy of the UN, the corruption of the UN. They would get a response from someone talking about the critical comments where Lines in Motion then added this. A lot of fans knew this would eventually happen. Literally any female mangaka who shows to be left-leaning will get bombarded with hate and accusations of being an industry plant. Yuki Satsugu had a massive
Nah, it's because literally an industry plant. So that's why. What the the grammar killed itself. Yep. Yeah, you can do like these cute like finger pointing, but like you are a freak. A freak in all caps. Anyways, it's like hilarious that like this fucker is talking about BLM. So here's a fun fact if you didn't know. I'm gonna say it as often as I need to every time BLM is praised. The fucker that created this company took all the money from black people that donated to it and whoever donated to it and ran. The entire thing was a scheme, bait, a scam to take your money. The creator of this movement ran, bought himself a man, bought herself or himself. I don't know if it was a chick or a dude. Bought a mansion and disappeared, and nobody bat an eye. The more you fucking know. So yeah, anybody who supports BLM is a fool, and I will call them a fool. I will call them an idiot every single time. It's that simple.
Backlash when tweeting in support of BLM, etc., etc. So this is a very strange take. It has nothing to do with the mangaka being a female. If it was a male mangaka, they'd be getting the same exact criticism right here. The fact of the matter is, as people have pointed out, as we've been discussing, as people in Japan are also pointing out, there's hypocrisy with the UN, who has previously called out anime and manga and disparaged the entire industry, and even attempted to frame Japan as problematic. Let's not forget the UN had previously also said that Japan was misogynistic because they refused to have a female emperor, which was such a ridiculous claim. There's a lot of examples of stuff like this. So yeah, people are pointing out the hypocrisy. It has nothing to do, again, with the mangaka being female. Now, it's also funny how so many leftists, like
dude, it doesn't matter if she's a woman. I don't give a shit that she's a woman. I don't give a shit. If it were a dude, it would just be the same problem. It's just UN propaganda and nothing else. I don't know how people can. It's like, bro, the dick sucking contest to the UN is crazy.
in motion here want to support the UN and BLM, and they act like you need to support those organizations. It's like, dude, you can have a discussion about policies related to worker reform without supporting corrupt organizations, but these people never do that. They want to support the corruption, which seems like a very unwise and weird stance to take, but we see this time and time again. For example, Danny here acting like people should support the UN and support BLM. So the UN, as mentioned, has many credible reports where people talk about the horrible things that their members have done in various countries to women and children. And BLM, they've taken money from black communities. They have actually taken money out of black communities and redistributed that money to wealthy elites. For example, one of the top members of BLM, one of the co-founders, was a African-American woman who took some of the money earned from BLM and actually bought multiple $1 million+ mansions. The millions that she took.
Yeah, but people don't know this because they actually don't know, and like they don't look into this stuff. That's why they don't know this. They don't understand this. They hear BLM and they just clap like seals. They hear the UN and they clap like seals. They hear all these so progressive movements and they will clap like seals because they don't actually look up what these companies, these movements, these whatever you want to call them, actually do. And yes, the UN is a company.
From BLM donors, that should have went back to black communities, but instead it went into her pockets. Anyways, that's Lines in Motion for ya. Moving on to the next part of the video, as we have another viral tweet here from Spanish Twitter criticizing this interview. It reads, "The animosity toward the author of Little Witch Atelier doesn't stem from having a different ideology, quote unquote, but from a direct act of aggression." By the way, they meant to say Witch Hat Atelier, of course. In that interview, agreeing with claims like manga is a medium dominated by men, or women must remain anonymous to survive in the medium, is dishonest and erases the history and work of multiple important mangakas just because you're being spotlighted as a good example. What would be the goal of supporting those narratives if not to appeal to a certain type of people and organizations? It's such a blatant.
You don't have to say certain type of people. You can literally just say leftist, because that's what the goal is here. It is also very interesting, right? Many of the most popular manga are by women, known, and we know that they are by women, like Sailor Moon. Inuyasha is also one of the bigger ones, right? Obviously, there's a lot of like romance romance manga also by women. Like, stop it. Get some help. The boys love stuff is also lots of that is by women. I mean, a lot of the how do I say this? not safe for work stuff is also drawn by women. I find this very interesting.
lie when you've opposed those discourses yourself in the past, and that's what rubs people the wrong way. This is not to mention that the UN has been a pain in the you know what for the anime slash manga industry.
It's also interesting, right? There was this one anime scene being shown, right? On like somebody showed it on Twitter, and then women complained that boobs don't do that, and that's super sexist, and like just like men are so horrible. And it's like the person who made this manga and this is behind this anime is a woman, a female. Of course, they don't know this because they don't know what women are.
With all the pressure they've applied to censor it. In that sense, people see the author's collaboration with them as a betrayal. I'm not commenting on the manga itself since I haven't read it, and honestly, it looks like the author is a good artist. I wouldn't rule out the manga being a 10 out of 10 or something like that, but let's not play dumb. Promoting the anime is sexist discourse in Big 2026 is tiresome, and it's obvious you're going to get pushback for winning sponsorships with that kind of tactic. Madam Savvy also getting involved here, saying, looks like Kodansha is fully UN and WEF.
Why is her profile picture eggs? Wasn't that the tweet where she was asked if she was laying those? Hold up.
Integrated, including a number of screenshots. On the first page from their website on sustainability, they talk about things like wanting to bring anime and manga to a global audience worldwide and to be the steward of things like freedom and diversity. And when you look at
Disgusting shit. Disgusting. Yeah, I don't want them to bring it to a global audience. Fuck off. Because every single time something gets quote unquote goes quote unquote global, right? Then it ends up being will be fucked. Okay, Krokorok. Every single time we'll end up being fucked, right? A lot of tourists enter, a lot of hoodweebs, a lot of dudes that you just don't want to dude around, and yeah, we don't want that. We don't want these people here. Thank you. We don't want them. Gatekeep. Gatekeep. Again, gatekeep. Gatekeep like your hobby depends on it. Like the media you consume depends on it.
that, they also go on to talk about how in 2020, Kodansha became a member of the United Nations SDG Media Compact. And to no one's surprise, they then talk about identifying issues based
on international guidelines and survey criteria used by ESG assessment organizations. So, DEI.
on international guidelines and survey criteria used by ESG assessment organizations. This isn't surprising at all considering that they've been pushing DEI rhetoric, and DEI is, of course, the method that corporations use to try to raise their ESG score in the hopes of appealing to massive capital funds like BlackRock. Turning to Kodansha's tweet where they were promoting the interview between the United Nations and Shirahama, I forgot to mention one thing. I did at the start tell you how they went on a mass blocking spree, essentially blocking everyone who was criticizing them and pointing out the hypocrisy of this interview and the corruption of the UN. But they also ended up shutting down their responses as well.
This motherfucker locked replies. Wonderful. Yeah, you know shit was going down if there's 1.3k quotes and just 3k likes. You know shit. Almost 4k likes at best. Like, you know shit was going down. You know. You're so racist and white German. Yes, I am a white German. I am. Shocking, I know. And you are a sand-dwelling crocodile. Crocodile.
Locking down their responses entirely. That's the latest, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a
Yep, that's the end of the video. So I just wanted to show this because just so you know what kind of enemies you are dealing with, and yeah, those are the people you're dealing with. Ideologues who want to destroy your media because that's their goal by pushing DEI into it even harder and lying, of course, right? Over 70% of manga are women. It just makes sense. It just makes sense that they're trying to do this. And I wonder how this is gonna go. Cause like it'll get worse. Like you can prepare for that to get worse. I'm pretty sure. They're gonna push it more and more and more, right? We have with the payment processors that don't want you to buy media that don't steam as non-problematic. So we have a problem here.